Hello and welcome to Drive-In Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan,
I'm Ryan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into this week's episode, I want to talk to you about our Patreon. If you head over to patreon.com/Drive-In Double Feature Podcast, we have a ton of bonus content, pre-recordings before our episodes, trivia, a lot of fun stuff. You supported us for $5 a month, but no main show content is locked behind Patreon. But moving into this week's episode, guess what time of the year it is? It's October. We get to talk about horror movies again. Well, it's not like
Oh,
we do it all year long, but this month we're doing it all every day.
oh, was it supposed to be horror this month?
Yeah, not documentary.
I thought it was courtroom dramas.
Oh, is that why you picked My Cousin Vinny?
Yeah, I was gonna do that, and then the verdict, the firm.
Oh yeah, I mean, scary in their own right.
I
But
mean, what's more scarier than a false accusation?
a false accusation, the fear of going to jail for a long time, that's real horror. I,
Horror. Overall,
I,
it's a
yeah,
horror moment.
I think those need to go in horror as well. But no, 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 no. Today for my choice this Tuesday, we're going to be talking about some classic horror stuff, and that is Zombie 2, but it's also known as Zombie, and it's also known as Zombie Flesh Eaters. It's got a ton of titles, but it is the 1979 Lucio Fulci movie. And I know if I showed you the poster for this, and if you look at our little icon wherever you're listening to this from, you'll see the zombie guy, and you're like, oh, I know that. I've seen that face before. That's this zombie movie.
You won't know that though until the very end of the movie.
Yeah, but whenever I did get to the end of the movie and I saw the zombie face, I was like, "Oh, there it is. There's the cover of this movie." Because I've seen
And
this poster for years and
you're like, there it
years.
is. It's him.
It's him, the guy, and he becomes a huge character in the movie.
He does.
Uh-huh, yeah. He's my favorite character. But no, this is Lucio Fulci, who we've talked about on the show before, with New York Ripper and Don't Torture a Duckling, which I think is a very, very old episode, right?
Well, that's pre DIDF
That's
days.
pre-DIDF. Wow. Okay, that's crazy to even think. Maybe we need to cover that one again. But okay, so on DIDF, we've only covered New York Ripper. But here's the thing. So far, he's done duck voices in every movie, and unfortunately, no duck voice shows up in this one.
Oh, there was.
There was when?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God, I was like, did I tune out something? Like a zombie rises from the grave, and he he talks in a duck voice.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah,
be
like
pretty good.
I'd be for it. But no, this movie was made as a sequel to Dawn of the Dead, but not really, kind of a ripoff, because overseas that movie was just known as Zombie, and they're like, oh hey, let's just call this Zombie too. Nothing like Dawn of the Dead though, like not even like really a knockoff, other than it has zombies because it's more about voodoo zombies and not whatever's going on in Dawn of the Dead. And Dawn of the Dead's a little more comical. This one isn't funny, at least not intentionally funny.
Oh, I was laughing every second.
I mean, I laughed too, but I don't know if that was the point. Um, I want to get into this right from the top, and for everybody listening, I'm ripping the band-aid because I feel like I need to. This movie is praised. Like people love this movie. It has really high ratings. People consider this an amazing zombie movie. I didn't see it personally. Ryan, did you like this one? How much did you like it?
I didn't mind it.
You didn't mind it? Okay. I think there's good parts at the end. I think it gets really good at the end, but I think that first hour 15 is a drag. It's a stretch getting through it. At least for me when I was watching it.
Oh, Nathan? You're telling me the topless shark scene was not
Okay,
engaging?
that part was, but I'm
You're
telling you,
like, ooga.
I was going crazy. Okay, that was kind of wild because that was just kind of funny. But there's bits like after that shark scene, they just get to the island. It's a lot of talking, walking around, figuring out what's going on. And then there's parts of that before where it's like an investigative movie. So the movie does open with a pretty cool scene where a boat just washes up on shore. Well, not washes up, it's what do you call that? There's just nobody on it. It's just in the middle of like a New York harbor. And so
Mhm.
cops pull up, and guess what? There's a zombie on there. And the zombie attacks one of the cops. Um, and that's kind of our introduction to the zombies in this movie. And I do like the New York plot line because I was thinking the whole time because the zombie ends up getting in an autopsy and you see it move a little bit, but the people performing the autopsy can't see it. And that's it for New York until the very end of the movie where they're like, as they escape the Caribbean island, and it's like, hey, there's a zombie outbreak in New York. We can't kill him. We can't stop him.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it all came around full circle. Um, but that
Well, yeah.
autopsy,
That's because that's when Dawn of the Dead starts.
oh yeah, it's a prequel actually.
It could, yes.
Yeah, zombie half. It's like right before 0.5.
Yeah, it's like
Oh,
it's like The Lion King 1.5.
I love Lion King 1.5. One of the most inspired movies ever.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I right away they what I do love is because this is a very Italian movie, despite it being in New York,
mhm.
and there is lots of dubbing in this movie.
It's bad, man. But
Like
it's
it
Italian. It is what it is.
just they not even close to being matched up.
No, yeah, and some of these actors are American too, so they are speaking English, but it still doesn't do a good job of matching. Tisa Farrow's in this movie, who's Mia Farrow's sister, is the star of this movie. Who she was in like some movies, like she really was not a star. She was actually in like three of these Italian movies in a year.
Oh wow! I wonder if she was at the wedding.
I'm sure. I wonder what she thinks of it now. Is she still alive? Hold on. No, she died. Oh, she died this year. Oh well, in January.
Oh,
Rest in
wow.
rest in peace. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, we can't interview her for the episode that we do. We do all these interviews.
Yeah.
Um,
They always cancel on us at the last minute.
yeah, that's usually how it goes. These, celebrities, it's the way it is. But in this opening, there's a guy, an investigative reporter, who gets called into the office and is told, you need to go and investigate this boat. And you know who that man is? The head of the newspaper company.
He looked familiar.
It's Lucio Fulci. It's the man
Oh,
himself in a cameo, and that's why the dubbing does not even remotely match what he's saying.
well, I was like, that man looks like he likes ducks.
Yeah, exactly. And he had to like really stay away from him during this one.
Maybe he was making the duck voice, like, and that's why the movements didn't match up on his lips.
That's what it was. And then whoever did the dubbing
And
was like, we can get rid of that. I don't want that. um, but yeah, so the autopsy scene's a little funny because isn't it like it's like an apprentice with a master like autopsy person? What do you call those? What if
Like the assistant?
no the person who performs an autopsy?
Oh, a mortician?
A mortician? Okay, cool. But the mortician is like really mean to his assistant because the assistant can't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then it becomes just like a detective movie with Tisa and Anne and Peter. And there's a really funny scene where they're investigating the boat where everything happens, and the cop shows up and they have to pretend to be having sex with each other.
Oh yeah, they were on the
Uh-huh.
boat and they're just like, "This is all your fault. You thought this would be a great idea." It's like, no, like it's like her mother suggested it. It's like, leave my mother out of this.
Yeah, and they do a great job acting this fight. These two people that just met each other. Um, the cop's just like, get out of here. But they do because her father's gone missing on like a Caribbean island that's uncharted, and he and the other guy he wants to figure out what happened here. So they have to go and charter a boat. So they find two people that are willing to take them out there, and along the way, which is so funny, this came so out of nowhere. This the girl just like she's like, "Oh, can we stop here? I want to take photos underwater." And everyone's like, "Okay." And then
Yeah.
she just starts stripping. Like the movie just takes a break to let her go shirtless.
And they're just staring at her like while they're just like, Like,
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah, the guy Peter is just like, just watching.
and
It's
like her swimsuit. I mean, she has no swimsuit on. She basically has like a loincloth, kind of like.
yeah, because it's like it's a loincloth, it barely fits. And then she puts on her scuba suit, and of course well, it's not really scuba suit. She just
She
puts on
just
like goggles.
she just puts the air tank on and then
Yeah.
just like and just jumps in with like no shirt on and she's just topless.
Yeah, it covers nothing. And when I'm watching the movie, I was like, okay, are we just gonna be doing this? And then it becomes like a Jaws knockoff for a second because a shark shows up and starts attacking her.
I mean, zombies and shark. This movie's pretty innovative. Like, before all those zombie shark movies, before zombie sharks were so overdone. Now,
Hmm.
let's look how fresh this is.
Well, see, that's the
Zombies
thing.
versus sharks.
A lot of people going back to this one, they're gonna say cliche, but this is where it started, people. So just remember that. Remember, this is where everything started for all of this. But yeah, so the shark chases after her underwater, but then a zombie's underwater too. Just out of like she's like hiding, and then a hand comes up and grabs her underwater. It's not really explained how this zombie ended up here. I guess it doesn't
No,
need to be.
no, and then zombie starts eating the shark.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It becomes a duel between the shark and the zombie, where
Mm-hmm.
like the zombie's like grabbing onto the shark and the sharks just keeps going. And I mean that they give that shark like a fake arm to chew on because it like rips off an arm and everything.
Well, since this is an Italian movie, an Italian horror movie, and we've had that experience, I'm sure they're really considerate of the shark and took
Oh
nice
yeah.
care of it. And
Yeah, they had the what is it, the ASPCA out
yeah,
there, and they were watching the shark and making sure. I mean, they did the shark better than I expected. The whole
I
time I
was
was watching it, I was waiting for it to die or something.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Like the shark, they're gonna like actually shoot it with a gun
Yeah.
or stab it or something.
No, but yeah, luckily the shark does live in the movie. We don't see it die on screen. Who knows what happened afterwards? But that part of the movie I do like because it's actually shot underwater, and you can tell like the zombies in the water and its hair is flowing. Doesn't work really well for its makeup. I don't know if you noticed, like the caked makeup for the face was just kind of like peeling
Oh
off.
yeah, I thought I was like, what's wrong with its face?
And I think it was, yeah, and I think it was just the special effects were coming off in the water. But it does look cool. I do think it's interesting.
That was an entertaining scene.
Yes. Yeah. But then
So I give it a recommend.
well, we're ending here. We still got more of this movie, buddy. Even though it's funny, I've explained like 45 minutes of this movie, right? Like this is a good chunk of the movie.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, which is very surprising. Um, but yeah, they finally get to the island, and there's a doctor on the island who is trying to cure these dead that are coming back to life.
Yeah, it's the main girl's father.
Yes, yeah. And so the movie is not your take on zombies where it's just like, oh, the dead are coming back to life. It's your old school take on zombies where it's based on voodoo and just like witches and witch doctors bringing the dead back to life, and that's what's happening. And of course her dad's like, oh, well, I don't believe in any of that, so I'm going to cure this disease, whatever it is.
Yeah, despite all the locals telling him about the legend and how, like, because even his assistant's like, I'm getting out of here, and just
Yeah, no, maybe not that cartoony. That would have been funny though. I'm getting out of here,
no, it wasn't that bad, but that's the vibe. It was kind of like,
Yeah,
it's like he was leaving because he was basically telling them like, no, like we need to honor, like we don't want to be messing around with stuff like this. And he's just like fairy tales, that type of thing.
exactly. Yeah, and like I wouldn't trust this area because they show shots of their village and it's like crumbled, destroyed. There's tumbleweeds. People are like barely walking in the middle of the village. You wouldn't see me out here, especially because the whole thing is that it's an uncharted isle. That this like nobody knows where this is at, and it was really hard to find it. Um, But
And her father found it.
yeah, her father and they found it as well. They stumbled on it. But if there's one thing this movie does well, and I would expect Fulci to do it well, is the violence, the gore, the blood effects. That stuff. If you like that stuff, it's really gross in this movie. Of course, there's eye stuff. So there's like it's the lead doctor's wife. Who was he to her? Just an assistant?
Yeah.
Lover? Okay, well, and they're together, and there's a zombie that's attacking her, and it's a really long scene where she's like behind the door, and he's trying to just break in, and she's hiding on the door for whatever reason, and he's able to break his arm through, grab her head, and then ring her eye into a splinted off piece of wood, and it's very slow, very drawn out, like her trying to push against it,
Yeah.
him pulling her into it.
Well, I mean, because there's certain points where, I mean, there's very clearly a scene where they swap out the head for the fake eye or whatever, fake head.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's a lot of moments where it's like her real eye is like right above that scar,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. Like
No, no.
have like a needle like that close to my eye, like
Yeah, I can't even stand to put in contacts, let alone have something like that so close to my eye. No, just like what it is, Malcolm McDowell had a scratched cornea while making a Clockwork Orange or whatever because they were putting that crap into his eyes. I'm sure in Italy they're like, "No, honey, you're safe. Don't worry. This is a trained actor." And it's just a guy they pulled off the street.
hey, don't worry about
Yeah, you'll get a pizza pie after. I hope so. I hope they have pizza slices. That's just like that's the catering.
Well, yeah, but they were in New York, so it was
Oh,
fun. So they get the New York pizza.
thank God. New York pizza is the best pizza. Am I right,
Uh,
people?
no, Nathan, it's deep dish. What are you talking about?
Oh, this is the war we're fighting now. You are a deep dish person. Yeah, I know. I knew ever since we watched Love at the Thanksgiving Day Parade, and you were like, I love deep dish. That deep dish looked scrumptious. I could have just ate
Yeah,
it off the screen. I should have known you were a freak.
I eat my deep dish pizza at the Chicago Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Yeah, of course. The second most popular Thanksgiving Day Parade.
It is.
Yeah, yeah, wow. I'm glad I was able to bring that one back up.
I was actually pretty impressed. You were just pulling that out like that.
Thank you, thank you. That's a classic episode. But no, so they do end up on the island. One of the guys gets hurt, his ankle gets hurt. They're going around. One of my favorite scenes though is when they find a clearing and there's the conquistador helmet on the ground and they're like, "Oh, we're like in a graveyard." Like they ended up in the worst place they could because there's zombies all over the place. But it's not as full as you'd expect. Not like a Dawn of the Dead zombies everywhere. They kind of just pop up when they need to.
And there's a scene in the hospital where they have all the dead bodies like wrapped up in sheets or whatever, and they all
Hmm.
start rising and everything too. That was kind of neat. I like that.
Yeah, and I liked how they eat the like people.
How they eat the zombies.
Yeah, well, sorry, they eat the people because there's like a scene where they're all just like sitting around a person and they're eating it really slowly. Like I'm used to zombies being very ravenous and just like going inside and ripping, but these zombies they kind of just like picked out pieces and they just sat there and just ate it like a fine meal almost. I don't know. I thought that was an interesting take. Um,
I mean, if you are a zombie and you can eat people, I would think you'd want to savor each meal.
I mean, yeah. I mean, how many times do you get people? Do you catch a
Well,
person to eat?
I mean, on an uncharted island too. It's like,
You might as well get you savor what you get. Yeah.
yeah, what are they gonna do? Eat another zombie? That's just crazy.
Yeah, that's cannibalism. You can't that's not okay.
Yeah,
Um but yeah, it all ends up on like a big they try to protect themselves inside of a barn. And that's probably the biggest part of the movie is all the zombies trying to break into this barn that they're hiding out in. Breaking boards coming in and people die, blood splatters everywhere. Um and I mean, that's where the movie shines for me. I think there's just a lot of slowness getting there, but like that shark scene, any of the zombie scenes, those are good and kind of elevate the movie a little bit because the makeup's fun. and all the blood effects are fun. Like I love the scene of the two people inside the barn and the zombies come up and the girl starts she's like screaming as she watches like her like the other guy there get eaten. There's it's full of good moments like that.
Yeah, it's this movie does deliver a lot on the gore.
Mhm.
It may be a little light on the story and like pacing, but I did enjoy the scenes with that because it seemed like even for it being like I guess not being like very tame by today's standards, I still felt it was pretty well done.
Yeah, this movie has a mood when I was watching it. It does have like a creepy mood to it. It's a little unsettling, a little cold. I think the score helps it. It's a little, it's the classic Italian silly score where it's like doing a lot of weird stuff. But I actually did really like it. Like there's like a zombie theme in this movie. And I went out after the movie, I went and listened to the song on its own. I was like, oh, that was actually pretty good. And I guess the guy who made the music, Fabio Frizzi, he goes on tour playing this music, which is really funny.
You know, one thing these Italian horror directors do is that they do music pretty well in these movies.
They at least have a very interesting score in their movies. Like it's very fun. Or it's like very important in the movie. Like I always think of Tenebrae, where that was like so important.
Like a funky dance beat.
Yeah, it's odd, but it's part of the hallmarks of an Italian movie. And I will give it points. I will give it plenty of points for not killing an animal. I feel like we watched too many of these movies of this era, and there's a dead animal, and we don't get that here.
Yeah, I mean, sure we got a couple of women, just exploited, but what's the big deal?
It's fine, and even then, it wasn't as bad as
And
as usual.
oh no, I mean like New York Ripper was like disgusting with some of
Yeah,
those scenes.
exactly. Here, it's not, there's just some nudity. It's actually, now the more I think about it, it's like tamer on the more like actually offensive side of things versus like that. Just like the blood and gore is like amped up, which is the way I would want it.
Yeah.
hmm but no, I mean, yeah, I think I like the ending stinger too of all the zombies in New York walking, even though if down below you can see all the cars are still driving on the bridge just fine.
They're leaving.
Yeah, I'm out, but they were going both ways.
Well, they were leaving to New York. They were leaving from the other place that had zombies. They
Oh,
they thought New York
gotcha.
was safe.
And then the people in New York were leaving because they thought outside of New York was safe. Nowhere was safe.
That's
But
right.
no one decided to question, like, huh, why are they coming here? No, I don't know.
These people are idiots. They're heading towards the zombies.
But no, I think overall, I didn't love this movie. I think I maybe was going in with a little too much hype because I was seeing a lot of positivity for this. But I think overall, it's fun. It's a Fulci movie. It's bloody, it's gory, it's got fun zombie stuff.
Yeah, I liked it, I think. I
hmm
mean, it's nothing amazing, but it's pretty much what I expected. I mean,
hmm
I can't I wasn't expecting this to like just wow me, but I'm expecting like a halfway cooked plot with some like decent gore and some decent music. And I feel like I got that out of it. So I feel like it met my expectations.
Halfway
So
cooked, like
yeah,
like the way I like my pizza. One side cooked, the other side raw.
that's how I like it too. I like my hot pockets, blazing hot on the outside and just like an icicle like right in the middle.
Well, that's what you get every time, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I'm saying you're saying recommend.
Yeah, I'd say recommend.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna say just to stick to my guns, maybe a not recommend, but if it sounded fun to you, definitely check it out.
Always a contrarian.
I have to be. I have to be. But
Uh,
I
I
do.
mean, well, one thing I wanted to ask is we we kind of touched on it a little bit,
Mhm.
but this movie had a bunch of unofficial sequels off of that too, right?
Yes, yeah, I believe so. Oh God, I can look up a list. But I think what it was is like this movie was also extremely big. Like this movie did really good. And after that, it was just sequel after sequel.
Well, it was just like
Um,
they would make a zombie movie and like it'd be like Zombie 3, but then like it would actually like the alternate title would be like the real title of the movie. But they were just like, or what was it like?
so yeah, so this in Italy, Zombie One is Dawn of the Dead. That is
Right.
Dawn of the Dead, and then Zombie Two is the one we watched, but it's also called Zombie. And then there's Zombie Three, and then in the UK, it's called Zombie Flesh Eaters. But the Italian Zombie Flesh Eaters 1 is Zombie 2. And then Zombie Flesh Eaters 2 is Zombie 3. And then Zombie Flesh Eaters 3 is a completely different movie that has nothing to do with the franchise. Um, and then I'm looking at it right now. In Thailand, there's 4 of these movies. And then in Germany, Zombie 2 is Day of the Dead, and they I guess they never got Zombie 2. It's just completely ignored and they skipped the Zombie 3. I This is crazy. Um
Well, because there was another zombie movie that we talked about, Zombie 90, where we are like, oh,
yes.
we thought it was Zombie 7, but it wasn't.
Yeah, yeah. I'm seeing that on the list here. Yeah, okay, so because Wikipedia loves to lie. Like that's like the biggest thing because Zombie 7 is listed on here. Of course. Um yeah, I just think there's so many unofficial sequels, and that's like the world of movies that we dig into, especially during horror month, of like movies that like are so ambiguous as to like what they're actually tied to.
You couldn't do that anymore.
It'd
Like
be so hard to do, right? Like,
I like can you just like, oh yeah, this is just like the sequel to whatever Jaws. Like this is Jaws 2 now, or this is Jaws 5, and
no.
it's just like a shark movie.
No, they're banking on people being like, because nowadays everybody's connected to the internet. You just look up a movie instantly, you know what it is, right? They're banking on people having no knowledge, just walking by and seeing, oh,
So do you think
Jaws 8. All right, I can't believe we made it here.
so do you think people in Italy were like watching this movie called Zombie 2 and you're just like, well, how's this related to Dawn of the, like, the other
Yeah,
movie? Like
probably.
they were in a shopping mall, now they're on an island. What's going on?
Yeah, it's just weird, right? Like, what were they getting at with this? They're hoping that people were seeing this, but also like
I'm assuming like
not
Dawn of the Dead.
remembering.
I'm assuming Dawn of the Dead had something to do with like the translation of Dawn of the Dead, or
Yeah.
like it didn't sound right maybe over there, so they're just like, oh, zombie. And then I guess maybe Lucio Fulci, which I could totally see doing, would just be like, oh yeah, just it's a sequel. This is a sequel now. Boom. Like,
Which is so funny because, like, I'm sure he cares about his art, but just to make a movie, to write it, direct it, get people acting it, and then just be like, screw it. I'm throwing Zombie 2 on there. It doesn't, it's not its own thing. We're gonna just make it a sequel. I don't know. But also, I just learned that in 2021, we got Zombie 8 Urban Decay.
oh,
Maybe we'll do it another time. Honestly, it looks like somebody just like filmed this in their backyard.
I hope so.
Wait, does that mean we can just make Zombie 9 if we wanted to?
I think we could. I mean, could you just put like grab any zombie movie? Like, we should find like a public domain zombie movie. Call it, oh, get Night of the Living Dead and and call it Zombie.
Yeah, Zombie 9, but we like just to make it different, we intercut like scenes that we filmed like on our iPhones in the middle of
Yeah,
it.
it's like, wow, this iPhone footage looks even better than the movie.
Yeah, we'll just call it like the remastered version. I don't know. There's just like the
Like,
scene where he slaps the woman, and we're just like, why would you do that? Like,
yeah, yeah, like we're like in the living room and we're just like, oh no.
that actually sounds funny. Maybe. Like, don't steal that idea from us. I'm copywriting it. There's got to be someone who's inserting themselves in the movies that way, right? Just
That
like during a
just
conversation shot of them, just mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I hope so. I want to do that.
That's kind of funny. That's this is a rant now, but that reminds me of like when you go to Universal Studios and they have like the rides where it's like, oh, we're putting the audience in the movie,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like that. Um, but anyway, I do think that does wrap it up for Zombie 2. But Ryan, what are we covering on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, we are going to be talking about 1980s The Changeling, and that one is for free on Tubi as well.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch that one. And if you want to email us, you can email us at driveanddoubleFeaturePodcast@gmail.com. You can also go over to X and X at us over at DIDF Pod. But until next time.
Until next time.